What's going on, everyone? It's Justin here, and 10 years ago I was one of those people who was very skeptical about the original iPad, but just this past week I actually sold all of my MacBooks with the intent of traveling with nothing more than the current generation iPad Pro. Even if you love or hate Apple, you have to admit that they have dominated the product category since its arrival, and this week it turns 10. So today we're going to summarize the history of the last decade of the iPad, its major turning points, and my experience of the iPad Pro after a year and a half, and what I also expect to see in the long-awaited update in 2020. So the first generation iPad was announced on January 27th, 2010, and it was a product that nobody knew that they needed, but on its first day it sold 300,000 units and over 15 million units before its first birthday. Apple found success in creating a new market, and 10 years later, that hasn't changed one bit. The tablet was priced at $500 and had a 9.7-inch display, which was perfect in between of a phone and a laptop. And fast forward to the most recent years though, smartphones are becoming more like tablets with the large sizes and the Galaxy Fold, for example, compared to 2010 when tablets were more like larger versions of a smartphone. Just over a year later though, the iPad 2 was released at the same price, and unlike product iteration nowadays, the iPad 2 was a huge redesign. I remember sitting in the computer lab in my grade 7 class, scrolling through the Apple website trying to learn everything about it, and it had shaved 1/3 of its thickness, became 15% lighter, had a dual-core A5 processor, and was said to have twice the speed and power of the original. For the first time, it got a front-facing camera which could support FaceTime that came out in mid-2010, and the sales got even better, hitting roughly 25 million units sold before Q4 of that year. By then, Apple had held 51.7% of the tablet market share in just its second year, beating out all the other competition combined. My dad bought an iPad for my mom with a smart cover, and I remember recording an unboxing of it on my iPod Touch, which I kind of deleted that video, and the smart cover at the time was like a magnetic setup and the alignment was especially cool. I just remember like the Apple commercials where they kind of demonstrated it, how it worked as a stand and protective cover, and the white color was also announced for the very first time and it looked amazing. An HD Retina display was added to the third gen, which was increased to the pixel count of 264, 4 times the amount of the previous generations. Later on in 2012, the iPad mini came out, which was able to compact half the weight of the third generation size while retaining 2/3 of the viewing area.
Find even more uses for iPad, to use it in places they never imagined, in manners they never have before.
The price was $329, which was the lowest entry point ever for the iPad lineup at a 7.9-inch screen size, and that was the first iPad that I personally bought.
What's up everyone, Justin with JTechApple here, and today I've got the camera test of the iPad mini.
This really allowed schools to integrate this into teaching, but what I remember was nothing productive was ever done on those iPads. People would like message random numbers and stuff, and around this time competitors like Samsung and Amazon were putting a strong focus on the tablet market, and the uprise of 2-in-1 such as Microsoft Surface also came out in the year of 2012. One thing that competing manufacturers were really far behind on were the exclusive ecosystem experience that the apps Store provided, and Apple had already had like a head start on the tablet hardware market and was trying to make the tablet experience more than just a large smartphone with iPad exclusive apps. The iPad Air was another device that packed a lot of power into a small form factor, and this late 2013 release now had the 64-bit Apple A7 processor. It was 20% thinner and 28% lighter than the 4th gen iPad, all with improved power and speakers and pushing the portability of this tablet. You'll notice I'm skipping a few different products here because I'm not going to go into the detail of like 18 devices that came out over the past years, because a lot of them were just incremental spec upgrades, and I feel like there weren't any complaints about that at the time because the iPad just seemed to be the clear winner in the tablet market all the way. The next big one was the first installment of the iPad Pro, and this didn't come until 2015, and I feel like it was the first time we had seen a major productivity statement in years. The size became more similar to a laptop screen with the introduction of a 12.9-inch size, which I personally feel like is too big, and the way the pencil was effective in the utilize the Apple dedicated ecosystem and display technology really pushed the boundaries of iPad utility. Whether it was like for doing some art, taking notes, and easy navigation, it was great from the start aside from its charging method, which looked really stupid, and they didn't fix that until recently, and the cost being $799 was higher than we had seen before because it was targeted towards a professional market of creators and often seen in the medical field as well. The processing power was just the best that Apple had done for a portable chipset. 2018 included the release of the 6th generation iPad, and the price at this point was now down to $329 with the Apple A10 processor, and it was still more than capable for everyday tasks and even pushing a little bit beyond that. It also had Apple Pencil compatibility if you're willing to spend an extra $100, and it is estimated that in 2018, roughly 45 million units of tablets were sold by Apple. And now that takes us to the current generation iPad Pro that was released in the tail end of 2018, and even in 2020, this tablet is still beautiful, has an edge-to-edge display, lack of a home button, squared off edges, and looking at the big picture, what's more impressive is the amount of power that this tablet has, and in some cases is even more powerful than mid and baseline computers. You can edit raw photos easily, video if needed even in 4K, and the countless other computational tasks that aren't usually meant to be done on a tablet can be done on a model like the iPad Pro. With some rumors floating around of Apple making its own chipsets in the future for computers, for example, and what they've done with software optimization and utilizing power, I think that is extremely exciting, and we've seen that in the iPad Pro line. With the release of the Mac Pro though, and the amount of power that provides in a fixed setup, I decided to sell all my MacBooks. I love the MacBook and I use them as a daily computer pretty much since I started YouTube in 2010, with the exception of a few years in between, and the 16 and 15-inch Touch Bar model was a computer that I had edited every single video on since 2016. But I still found that I brought my iPad on every flight for multimedia and decided to take the leap and sell all my computers just this past week and just use the iPad for everything on the go for the next few months. I will say though, I hate video editing on the iPad. It is just so finicky and takes forever, but as like a multimedia machine or a portable setup and doing administrative work and like running all these exclusive apps, it has been an amazing device. If you're just using it for like multimedia consumption, this thing can last like 2 full 9-hour overseas flights and still have power to spare, which a laptop just simply can't do. Whether it's like email, using it as like a second display with my computer, it has been a great device to use, and I think the 11-inch size is perfect because it isn't too close to the size of a laptop where it would make more sense to bring a full laptop, but at the same time, you've just got so much power, battery life, and everything that I've been editing all my Instagram photos in Lightroom exclusively on a mobile tablet. But now looking forward, it's been a while since the iPad Pro saw an update, and it's almost hard to predict what we expect because there isn't really a want list after a year and a half of the launch of this device, which is very rare. I feel like with like iPhones in the past year, you kind of had like a expectation of what you want to see and some areas that you want to see them improve. But this year, I think the only rumors that have really been floating around is that the iPad will have a triple camera setup, just like on the iPhone with the wide telephoto and the standard. But this year there's also been talks of a 3D depth sensing lens or a time of flight sensor for AR as well, which personally isn't something I use a lot, but the capabilities with apps that are being made and being able to like look at 3D spaces, even in consumer use, is very cool. As for the display, the iPad 120Hz ProMotion is already amazing, aside from the dead pixel on mine that Apple wouldn't fix, which kinda sucks, but analysts have been pointing to the possibility of mini LED display versus LED, which can improve display quality as well as reduce the thickness of the iPad, which I really don't think is needed because this is already extremely thin and I think it is perfect with its battery life and power ratio. 5G and a redesigned keyboard with backlight would be nice as well, but otherwise I think it is very much up in the air, so I'm curious of what you guys would think is going to come on the upcoming iPad. So make sure you go ahead and leave like a comment down below as to what you expect or want to see on the next generation iPad Pro. Otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed this video where we took like a bit of a memory lane look at the iPad and its kind of progression over the years with different models, and I think this is one of the product lineups that Apple has done an amazing job on, and you just have to respect it whether you're an Apple fan or not. Of course, I'll be getting a hands-on of the brand new iPad when it is announced, and I'll see you all in the next video.